Hello and welcome. Today, we're tackling a concept that is absolutely fundamental to understanding politics, yet remains incredibly difficult to pin down: the state. It's enigmatic, a puzzle. We all live under one, but what exactly is it? In this video, we'll unpack its many definitions, trace its evolution through history, and explore the debates that rage about its power and purpose even today. So, what's our roadmap? First and foremost, we need to establish that the state is a contested concept. This isn't like defining a tree, where everyone basically agrees. Defining the state is a political act in itself. We will dive into the reasons why it's so hard to define. Then we'll look at the basic building blocks that most definitions include: territory, population, government, and sovereignty. After that, we'll see how different schools of thought, like liberalism and Marxism, view the state through completely different lenses. Finally, we'll bring it into the modern world and ask, what is the role of the state in an era of globalization? Let's start with the core problem. Why is there no consensus? Firstly, the state is value-laden. Your definition reveals your ideology. To a Marxist, the state is primarily an instrument of exploitation, used by the capitalist class to control the workers. To others, it's a moral entity that helps us achieve a good life. Is it just an aspect of society? Or is it a separate, powerful entity standing above society? The philosopher Nietzsche called it the coldest of all cold monsters, while a thinker like Thomas Hobbes saw it as a necessary leviathan to protect us from a violent, chaotic life. This confusion led political scientist David Easton to call the term a conceptual morass, a swamp of ideas, and he suggested that for clarity, we should avoid using it altogether in political science. To understand this complexity, we need a little history. The idea of a central governing authority is ancient, but the modern state is a relatively recent invention. The text describes a long and checkered journey. It started with tribal communities and kinship-based rule. Then came the city-states of Greece and Rome, where the concept of citizenship first emerged. After the fall of Rome, power in Europe became fragmented under feudal societies, with loyalties to local lords. This eventually consolidated into absolutist sovereign states, where a single monarch, like Louis XIV of France, claimed ultimate power. And in the modern era, we've seen a wild variety of forms, from the total control of fascist and communist states to the interventionist welfare state that provides for its citizens from cradle to grave. Despite all the debate, we can identify a common, textbook definition. The state can be seen as a system of relationships that defines a community. For this system to exist, it needs four core elements. First, territory, a clearly defined and recognized border. Second, a population, the people who live within that border. Third, a government, the set of institutions like the executive, legislature, and judiciary that make and enforce rules. And fourth, and most crucially, sovereignty. This is the supreme, ultimate authority. It means no other entity inside the state can overrule it. Now, this brings us to the most famous and influential definition of the modern state from the German sociologist Max Weber. He defined the state as a human community that successfully claims the monopoly of the legitimate use of physical force within a given territory. Let's unpack this power-packed sentence. Monopoly of force means that only the state, through its police and military, can legally use violence. You can't arrest someone. A private company can't have its own army. Legitimate is the magic word here. This isn't just a gang imposing its will. It's power that is accepted as rightful and legal by the population. This legitimacy is what gives a police officer their authority. And finally, Weber tied this to bureaucracy. The modern state administers this power through a formal, impersonal, and rule-bound system of public administration. Weber's focus on legitimacy is so important because it can be fragile. Thinker Jürgen Habermas warned of a legitimacy crisis. In capitalist societies, he argued, the state has to support the economy, which often means helping big businesses, but it also has to appear fair to everyone. When people see the state favoring the wealthy, they can lose faith, leading to a crisis where the state's authority is no longer trusted. This connects to the idea of soft and hard states coined by economist Gunnar Myrdal. A soft state is one that is unwilling to enforce its own rules. Think of widespread tax evasion or corruption that goes unpunished. A hard state, on the other hand, enforces compliance strictly, often through coercion and fear, like a military dictatorship. In reality, no state is purely one or the other. They all exist on a spectrum between these two extremes. Now, let's tackle one of the biggest modern debates. Is the traditional nation-state dying? The traditional view of sovereignty was absolute. The state was the final boss within its borders. But globalization has challenged this. International bodies like the IMF and WTO can impose economic policies on countries. Giant multinational corporations can move jobs and money across borders, limiting what a single state can do. This has led many to declare the end of the nation-state. However, there's a powerful counterargument. Scholars like those cited in your text argue that when states cooperate in the UN or agree to WTO rules, they are voluntarily exercising their sovereignty to achieve goals they can alone. They aren't becoming irrelevant. They are redefining their functions. In fact, in a complex globalized world, having a strong, strategic state to negotiate on the world stage might be more important than ever. To tie everything together, it's helpful to see how different theoretical perspectives view the state. The liberal view, going back to Locke, sees the state as a relatively neutral referee or night watchman whose main job is to protect individual rights and manage fair competition. The Marxist view, as we've mentioned, is fundamentally critical, seeing the state as never neutral. It's always an instrument of the economically dominant class to maintain its power and exploit others. The neoliberal view, which became dominant in the 1980s, argues that the state is usually inefficient and should shrink its role to a minimum, letting the free market drive society. Finally, the statist view sees the state as a powerful, autonomous actor in its own right, with its own interests and a great capacity to shape and direct society from the top down. So, where does this leave us? Our journey shows that the state is complex, constantly evolving, and for now, utterly indispensable for organizing modern life. There is no final, settled definition because what the state is and what it should be is at the very heart of political philosophy and struggle. While globalization, technology, and other forces are absolutely changing its form and functions, the reports of the state's death have been greatly exaggerated. It is adapting. Understanding this enigmatic power, its history, its theories, and its current challenges, is not just an academic exercise. It is key to understanding the forces of power, governance, and ultimately, our own place and rights within society. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you learned from this video? Or what topic should we explore next? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next.